And so there's 5 characteristics that I think are very important for you to be aware of as an apparel entrepreneur. As we get further down the list, they get more in depth and more technical, but they are the actual questions that every fabric mill or vendor needs to answer before they can present you the correct fabric that you're looking for. So the more you understand these things and the more you know the answers to these questions, the absolute better service you're going to get from a fabric vendor. And it also will help you be able to determine what fabric is good for your clothing line. Okay, so first of all, this is the most famous characteristic of the fabric characteristics. So determining the content, so what is the fabric made of? So let's say you start with your favorite shirt and you cut it up and you look at the tag, and this tag here on my screen says 97% cotton and 3% spandex. So let's say it says that. That is only about 15% of the information needed to actually find the right fabric for you. So in other words, it is not very helpful when people come to us and say, oh, I love this shirt I have. It's 97% cotton and 3% spandex. Can you find that fabric for me? That tells us just a teeny tiny bit of information that we need in order to start finding you the right fabric. There's a whole bunch of more information that we need that we're going to go into. So the next level of information that somebody needs in order to source fabric for you is so determine if you are looking for a knit or woven. Some people know this is a pretty basic part of fabric. If you're new to the industry, a lot of people don't know the difference between a knit or a woven, but it is going to determine everything. It's going to determine what fabric mill you go to, what fabric vendors you go to. Most fabric mills specialize in one or the other. So you're really going to want to know, am I looking for a knit or a woven? And that's going to help you head down the right path, because you could be barking up the wrong tree and wasting your time and the vendor's time if you aren't in the right category. So what is the difference between a knit and a woven? In most cases, no, not 100%, but in most cases, if it stretches, it's a knit. Okay? If it's a woven, it will not stretch. Again, in most cases. So for instance, a men's dress shirt, if you grab the fabric and you tug at it, it doesn't stretch. It's taut, right? So that is a woven. A t-shirt, like maybe let's say a base layer Under Armour t-shirt, if you grab that, it stretches, so that's a knit. So that is, very basic way to tell the difference of what you're looking for. What is most appropriate for your garment, and how do you determine that? Wovens are generally dressier fabrics, and they're really good for outerwear, like ski jackets or things like that in general. And then knits in general are more casual and more activewear. So think t-shirts and leggings and things like that. And then below here, we've got a diagram of just what makes the difference between the fabrics. It's how they're mechanically put together. So this one on the left is a woven. So it's just like, if you ever were in grade school and you did like a basket weave with construction paper, that's exactly how woven fabrics go together. It's, fibers going this way and then fibers going this way, and they get, they go up and down in each other. The knit fabric, there's a series of loops chained together, like this picture, which allows it to stretch. And if you've ever seen anyone knitting with needles, that's how that happens. All right, the next level of detail is determining what type of knit and what type of weave that you have. this is pretty important. You know, fabric vendors are going to want to know, are you looking for a jersey knit or are you looking for a rib knit? And there's maybe hundreds, if not thousands, of types of knits or wovens in each category. But if you can determine what kind of knit or woven you're looking for, that's going to really give you a leg up on your sourcing. There's different ways to describe it, but basically, again, it goes down to the mechanical way it's put together. There is a name for each type of look and texture, and that's what you're trying to describe there. All right, the next thing is determining the weight of the fabric. So, okay, up till this point, we could have identical fabrics. We could have a 97% cotton, 3% spandex. We could have it both be knits, and we could have them both be jersey knits. And when we get to number 4, one of them, let's say, is 190 grams and the other one is 300 grams. They're going to be completely different fabrics, right? So they have the same exact characteristics for the first 3 points we talked about, and now when you get to the 4th, you can totally blow, each other out of the water of how they're the same. So, for instance, this picture up here, these could be identical fabrics with content. They could be identical fabrics with the weave, but again, the weight is where we're determining the sheerness or opaqueness, and you can see they're totally different fabrics. They'd have totally different purposes. The weight is usually defined by grams per meter squared or ounces per linear yard. The weight of the fabric affects the sheerness and opaqueness of the fabric. It also affects the warmth and the coverage of the fabric. It affects the hand feel. It literally is heavier or lighter, but it really changes the characteristics of the fabric. So that's something that a fabric vendor, or when we set out to source fabric for people, that is one of the characteristics we make sure that we know. We do have capability to measure the weight of your fabric, which is some lab equipment called a punch. So we have a fabric punch and a scale where we get to know exactly the weight of the fabric that we're looking for when we're communicating with vendors. You on your own, if you're trying to source on your own, you could really just be aware that weight is a factor and start asking questions, like, what is the weight of this fabric that you're showing me, and ask the vendor, so you can start to get to know the weight of what you like. Okay, the last characteristic is determining what is the gauge or diameter of fibers used to make your fabric. So again, up until this point, we can have all of the characteristics exactly the same in the first 4 lines, but when we get to this one, we can change it up and it can be completely different fabrics again. So this is why this matters. So you can have the same content, the same weight, the same knit, the same type of knit, and then if you change up the gauge of the yarns, you're going to have completely different fabrics. So this is something that we're aware of when we're looking for fabrics. But basically it just comes down to smaller gauge fibers or larger gauge fibers. So, in this picture, you can see in the middle, very fine fibers. You can see them coming together, and I showed, basic like linen cloth, because you can really see those fibers. But you can imagine how that feels. It's supple, it's soft, that kind of thing. And then you've got the larger gauge fibers on the other side, where it creates a little bit more stiff fabric. It's a little more boardy, and those are 2 extremes. But if you're messing with that diameter of that fiber just a little tiny bit, it's really going to give you a different hand feel. A little bit about us, and then we're going to jump into the vocab words. We have over 2,000 fabrics in stock. Actually, this was written a while ago. I would say we're probably up to about 3,000. We work with over 200 vendors all over the world. We can do a free consultation with you if you're looking, for pricing. If you need fabric sourcing help, we can definitely do that. You can just contact us at info@clothierdesignsource.com. You could have us source your fabric for you. We also have a 4-step academy that you can inquire about as well, where I teach classes like this, but about more subjects and more in depth. Hey, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Check out our website if you need help with your clothing line, clothierdesignsource.com.